Hello everybody and welcome back to your computer science tutorial. This is section 3 video 3, and today we are going to be I took a little more philosophical view on our topic, and we have a quote from Henry Louis gosh, I am terrible. Is that an E or is that a C? I can't even read. I think it's a I think it's a E. Yeah, it's I don't know. McEnd. You can look it up. We're gonna call him Mr. McEnd, and he's Henry Louis McEnd. So now his quote goes as the following: "You come into the world with nothing, and the purpose of your life is to make something out of nothing." Well, today we're actually gonna be doing this in code. We're gonna be creating things from nothing. And this is gonna be very long, so we're gonna jump right into this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is you can import an asset. We're going to import the particles asset, because I'm very bad at anything that looks decent. Surprise, surprise. Yes, but we're going to import the particle asset. You can just do it right there, and it's going to load, and I'm going to show you what a particle system is and what you can do with them, and then I'm just going to take one of the standard particle assets, because I'm pretty bad with graphics per se. Okay, so now if we were to let's say make a bullet. Let's make a fireball. Okay, so let's say we have a little sphere I just made. Let's shrink it down. We don't really want to see our sphere. And we're going to add a particle system. And you see there's a particle animator, a particle renderer, particle system, and all these different things that I really couldn't tell you how to do half of them, because I'm not a graphics guy. But I could do a particle system, or a basic one at least. So a particle system, you can add it on, you can change the color. You actually do a lot of cool things with these. You can, if you were to delete out this terrain in the I could look from this direction. Can I look from this direction? That's a better question. That was weird. That cuts out if I'm in a specific angle. But let's say I was in this direction, and if I were to turn these into where's my particles? Here they are. And if I were to turn this into, like, I don't know, something like this, and if I were to, you could change the shape of it, and we're gonna make it not a box, box, and make it 10 by 10 by 10. Huh. That is odd. Should have changed shape. And if we were to actually flatten our box. And does it treat? That's weird. But I don't know what it's doing. Oh, make this one. Let's make this one 0. I think it's working. But now if you were to look from the bottom, you could sort of make like a spacey effect if you increase the amount of particles that can exist, and the spawn rate also. If you were to increase the spawn rate, how do you do that? I don't even remember. Mission. That's what I'm looking at. If you would increase this to, say, 100, that's a little much. We'll say like 50. And, well, I think you get the point. You could do a lot of cool things with these. And you could make like a space animation for like a Space World game. If you were to look at it like for like a Space Invaders, you could sort of put this in the background and make it play on like a plane, and it would look like you're moving forward if you looked at it from a certain direction, when in the reality is that you're not moving forward, you're staying in the same exact spot, which is very cool. And yeah, you'd also add like gravity multipliers so that they'll start falling. So if you want to like make like a rainy object, this is one way of doing so. But now moving on, now that you know how to make particle systems, change the color and all of that, you make this like, instead of gray, you make it like black particles or blue or really any color. But I'm very bad at graphics, so we're actually gonna remove my particle system. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of the Unity assets that I know looks awesome, because Unity makes some pretty awesome stuff, and I think it is the flame. Yeah, this is the flame. And just drag the flame, this flame prefab, should learn about what that is next, onto it, and now you'll see it's like a burning flame. Come on, you can't even deny that looks really cool. And we're just gonna rotate the flame so that it's at 90-degree angles, because I'm assuming you're gonna be traveling in a line. But yeah, so now let's rename our sphere to a fireball, and we'll make this capital because it's gonna be a prefab. Fireball. And we need to save this because we just made something so awesome. So all we had to do to turn this into a prefab is to drag it in. Now, I've been saying prefab. You probably have no clue what a prefab is. Basically, a prefab is something you save into your project so that you can reproduce it multiple times. And if you delete the object, you'll lose the prefab, but you didn't actually lose it. It's right here, and you could just put it back in. And so there we are. Okay, so now we need to program something, and this might be a two-parter. But so we need to create a script. Let's create it on our main camera. And let's call this script let's call it let's spell script. That's dumb. Cast fireball. And if we open up this fireball script now, we can start making stuff. So, well, the first thing we know we want to do is we want to use that fireball that we just created, so we need to have a reference to that. So we'll call that the spell, or spell. And we're gonna save that as a game object, because whenever you want to create a new object from nothing, you need to create a new game object, because that's the basis to all things that you're gonna see in Unity. And let's make a function. Let's do update. And let's do an input. So if input, we'll say the E key. EP dot get key down. And we're going to do the E key. So if you click the E key, we want to make a fireball. So now, one thing we need to take care of is that this spell, well, first we're going to create it. So it needs a new, we can't just create an object. It has to be a new object. So we're going to create something called a clone. So we're going to do variable clone, and it's going to be of type game object. And the actual code that's going to create this is called instantiate. Oh god. Oh, I'm lucky. I'm terrible at spelling that word. It's instantiate. And instantiate takes a few things. The first thing it needs is it needs the object it's going to recreate, which is going to be the spell, and it needs a position to recreate at. So we're just going to feed it the camera's position, and we're also going to feed it the camera's rotation also, so it's pointing the right direction. So transform. And if you ever wonder like why I can just type in transform.position, this would call the this is this is actually the same thing as this. So that's why I can do it like that. And well, we also need to, well, let's run this. Let's see what happens from here. So if we run this now, I have an error. I forgot a semicolon somewhere. The last line, so make sure you have your semicolon. After to run this, oh my gosh, I'm doing terrible right now. Capital S. Save that. And what was my other one? I keep spelling transform wrong. It's transform with an S. As you can see, I'm bad at spelling. And before we actually run, I lie. We need to set this what this spell is, and we're just going to set it. We're just going to open up a fireball spell, and we're going to drag that right on top when we're not playing the game, so it saves. Let's drag that on top. And if we run the game now, and we click E, we have this awesome fireball that's just there. And if we were to keep clicking it, we could probably make it look a little cooler. It'd look a little thicker. You see it makes that nice smoke animation. But it's not moving. And that is... Did I just walk over it? Oh, I still have a collider. Oh, let's leave the collider. We don't want our fireball going through everything. So now you can go about doing this a lot of different ways. You could add a rigid body to our fireball, which is actually what I think I'm going to do. Or you could just set up you could actually set up another script inside your rigid body, and inside your fireball, to make it just travel in a direction. I think this way is going to be the simplest though. So we're going to create our rigid body, and what we're going to do to make it move is that, if you remember, we went through adding forces to objects. We're going to add a force to this object. So what we need to do is we have to take this clone dot rigid body I'm going crazy. It's clone, oh my gosh, I can't spell either. Clone dot rigid body dot add force. So we're gonna add a force. And we need, when you add a force, if you don't remember, you need a force, which is a direction, and how much you want to apply. So one way we can figure out the direction of the camera is we can reference camera main dot transform dot forward, and this will just say forward. And we're going to multiply this by a variable we're about to create, and we're going to call that variable force. Not force, speed. Because our fireball is going to, we can make it travel really fast or really slow. And just declare your variable up top. And I did it with a lowercase. Typically, things that aren't references for me, I keep as a, and we're going to have a high speed because it's going to be a low force. So typically, for variables, anything that is a reference, I like to leave it as a capital, and anything that's not a reference, I don't leave as a capital, because that's just how I work. So now if we were to run this, it's got to compile. It's going to yell at me to say I have errors somewhere. Oh no, it didn't. Surprised. Okay, so now if we were to run this, let's see if this either worked or did not at all. And there's our fireball, and it moves really, really slow forward. And it sort of just slipped right by that thingy. And you see, there our little tiny sphere got caught on it, so sort of stuck in the object. Let's increase our speed to like 1,000. So now this should be moving. That's still kind of. Oh no, that's pretty fast. You see, it'll actually bounce off objects because it has a rigid body. If you hit it at angles, it'll actually calculate the angle to bounce. And you could actually like light the house on fire like this. You just shoot a bunch of these at it, and they didn't bounce off. Now you're gonna run into a problem, however, which we're gonna discuss in the next video. That's a lot of objects you just created. We need to figure out a way to control them, so we don't make my computer crash, because it's not a very good computer. But yeah, so there's your little fireball tool. Simple as that. Okay, so let's save that, and that's it for this video. See you guys next time.